everybody. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week we talk about how to love ourselves, others, and a higher nature, how to improve our finances, career, relationships, spirituality, and health. And we have a special gift today. We have a guest, Ashley Jackson, that's come back after appearing on our show before. She has an amazing story, a great book. And today's topic, I'm going to call this, Would You Marry Your Fiancé If They Only Had Weeks to Live? An amazing true story of turning pain into power and loss into love. Welcome, Ashley, to the show.
Thank you.
Ashley,
that was a beautiful.
You like that? Okay, I thought about that for a little bit. Okay, so you're an event planner, caregiver. You have a master's in human resources, so you worked in the corporate world, and then you're author of this very interesting book called Lost Travel Found. It just came out. I believe it's your first book, and it's kind of a true story of you and your fiancé, now husband. You went through a cancer battle with him, I guess, after you got engaged. And then since all that pain and suffering, he's recovered. And you started your own business called Timeless Dream Events, where you actually put on events for terminally ill, chronically ill people and their families, which is an amazing story. So first of all, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Yes. Now, your book, Lost Travel Found, that's an interesting title. How did you come up with that title?
So it's a memoir of the last 10 or so years of my life, and I definitely wanted to chronicleize, different phases that I have gone through. So I was lost in grief because at the beginning of the book, I talk of my father, who was a great influence in my life. So I talk about just the loss and being lost, figuratively and literally, and to kind of get out of my funk and figure out what I want to do with my life, because I realized life was really short. And a huge passion of mine is traveling. So I traveled, and coming to find, even despite even more, obstacles in life, which was the cancer journey with my husband, finding my purpose in life.
Wow.
So lost, travel, found, turning pain into purpose.
I like that. That's a beautiful phrase and way of looking at it. So basically, we're going to get into this later in the show, but you were in Disney World on January 1st with your fiance. I think it's 2017. He proposed to you. Everything was wonderful, and I think you had your birthday, and then in March of that same year, a couple of months later, he was diagnosed with a nasal cancer, stage 4, like a terminal kind of thing. And you went through this kind of grief and all that. And you talk about suffering is like scar tissue that kind of covers the pain. You still feel it, but it kind of gives you maybe some lessons or some wisdom from it. And you also mentioned that your dad suddenly died in 2011, I believe. And that was a big blow to you. And you said you were reluctant to have children as a result of that, and also your fiance's illness. Why is that? Why didn't you want to have children?
That's a great question. I think fear is a big part of it. I was 25 when my dad passed, and just missing all the experiences that we could have had. And throwing grandchildren into that mix would have been a huge, I would have wanted to see his eyes light up at his first grandchild. And it's just been hard for me. And because I'm so much like my dad, as my mom tells me, I have like a little fear that if I were to bring a child into this world, which the world outside of my own fear is crazy anyways to bring a child into, but more so I'm afraid what if I leave my child when they're 25?
Okay, so if you die yourself, also if your husband, I guess, with the cancer, was that another idea? If he died?
And that's another thing in the back of my mind too.
Okay.
Would I be a single mom?
Okay.
Even though he is cancer free, we're not naive to realize that it could come back, and with more veracity. But we try to stay positive.
So where are you at right now? You wrote the book. It just came out. Do you still feel that you don't want children, or what's your status on that, or you're not sure yet?
I'm happy with the way life is now. We can enjoy each other. He has a daughter, so I do have
Oh,
a bonus daughter.
okay, that's
So
nice.
it's not like I'm entirely lacking,
Yes.
in that arena.
Okay.
I do have a full family built in.
Okay. That's
So
good.
I'm okay where I'm at
You're okay.
right now.
Now, the other thing, and actually, when you were talking about the scar tissue, which is I think is an interesting concept, covering up the pain, but also there's some healing that goes with it. You also made an interesting statement. You said at the time, I don't know how you felt this. You said when I look at my friends and family, and they're carefree, and I feel like I'm in prison. So why is that? Why did you feel that you were trapped or imprisoned
Oh
psychologically?
yeah, absolutely. So when my husband Troy was diagnosed, I was 31,
Yes.
and he had just proposed 2.5 months earlier. So we were, at this amazing high. We were planning our engagement party,
Yes.
and immediately we had to stop that
Right.
to then plan my work schedule versus when I have to take him to and from the hospital for his treatments.
Yes.
And in the meantime, us in the battle, I'm looking at my friends and family as their lives are moving on. Even though mine stopped, theirs is moving on. And I got a little jealous, like, oh, they get to fly off to France or, Spain or Jamaica, wherever it is, and I have to drive him to his hospital appointment. It's not that he asked to be sick. It was just the whole situation
Right.
and the frustration of
Okay.
him being sick.
Exactly. And you talk about later the idea of the pity me and almost the victim mentality some people have when they get into suffering, and how to go beyond that, right? How to triumph upon that. So I want to touch on that a little later because I think that's a big part of your story. The other thing that came across in your book, and I read it, I really enjoyed it. It's well written, and it's kind of very heartfelt. I can tell the feelings that came out of it. Is you talk a lot about your dad, and your dad as a role model seemed very important to you. Now I'm going to ask you a question, but don't answer it yet. I want you to answer it in a little bit. But the question is, would you marry a man like your dad, or do you believe that's important? Okay. So a lot of people think about that idea. And you talk about your dad. You said he was a purpose-driven dream chaser. And then I noticed on your Skype it says purpose-driven dream chaser as well. So you're kind of taking some of his stuff, it looks like. And he said that when you were in ninth grade, he took you to the cemetery. And then must have been scarier for a ninth grader. He says, look at all the people that may have lost their potential, right? They're here, they didn't fulfill their dreams. Now, how did that affect you? That sounds like a very interesting lesson or scary lesson sometimes.
Yeah, he definitely tried to give me real life lessons
That's pretty real
growing
life.
up. But yeah, first of all, I was scared. I don't want to be in the cemetery.
Yes.
And but it was very impactful because as we're walking, he wasn't saying much. We were just walking, and all of a sudden he turns to me and he just says, like, look at all these hundreds, thousands of people who have grave markers here, and there's a huge possibility that they passed away before they could reach their full potential. I don't want you to be like that. And he would always tell me, find your purpose. I can't help you with that, but find your purpose in life, because when you do,
Right.
everything else will fall into place. Do not chase money. Chase your dreams,
Yes.
your purpose, whatever that may be, and everything else will fall into place.
I like that.
So I kind of held that in the back of my mind growing up because of that real life lesson he gave me in the cemetery. It was just always frustrating because I would think I would know my purpose, but it
Yes.
really wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't until more things happened in my life as I got older, as I describe in my book, which led me to my purpose.
Yes. And he also was helpful in teaching you affirmations, phrases we repeat to ourselves that are positive, that we believe. His was be above, not beneath. I used to rise above problems. And yours was something like, I will travel the world and nobody was going to stop me. So that sounds like a pretty cool affirmation. So he's very inspiring to you. So would you recommend women or ladies to marry someone like their dad? Because people have different opinions on that. Assuming their dad is a good dad. What do you think?
I was gonna say, I was very blessed to have a good dad.
Yes.
I can't speak for everyone,
Right.
but I will say, from what I've been able to tell, you do marry bits and pieces. It might not be the whole, like your whole father, but there are like some bits and pieces that you find in your mate. So like, for instance, my dad liked to crack jokes all the time. So does my husband. It's one of the main things that attracted me to him.
Yes.
His love of sports, even though I might not like all the sports.
Right.
It's stuff that like made me think like, oh,
yes.
At the time you might not realize like, oh, my dad liked that or whatever, but it's kind of funny how he'll say certain things. I'm like, okay, Skip, that was my dad's nickname.
Okay.
And
what was your dad's name, by the way? What was his name?
His name was Paul M. Jackson, but he went by Skip.
Skip. Okay, well, that's kind of a funny, cool name, Skip. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you would recommend, in some ways, if your dad is a good dad, marry someone that has those qualities or traits for a woman. And you've heard of possibly Harville Hendricks, who was on our show. He's a psychologist. He wrote Getting the Love You Want, bestseller, with his wife. And his idea was something called imagotherapy, that we tend to pick partners who have similar traits to the parent we had the most trouble with, and we try to work through those problems. For example, if your dad was cold, you might pick a man who's cold to work through that. And it can be a challenge to do that, but sometimes people do that. Or in your case, you didn't do that, right? You picked a guy that was the good traits of your dad, it sounds like. Or maybe were the challenging traits of your dad that your guy has, Troy, as well?
Well, it's actually funny, and I was just discussing this with my mom the other day, because my dad and I were so much alike. Sometimes we would butt heads.
Oh, you're a little stubborn kind of people?
Yeah. Sometimes we would butt heads because we were so much alike, and it's like we had to, have the last say, or this view of mine is correct. Why don't you see it my way?
Yes. Okay.
We were like that sometimes.
I see. So there's elements to work on. Okay. Now, so we'll talk about the relationship. I really want to get into that a little later with Troy. But the other thing that you mentioned in the book, and this has actually become a popular phrase these days, is the power of no, and how each no can get you to a yes, right? So people are afraid of no, rejection. If you're a shy person, especially, you don't want to talk to people because you're afraid of being rejected. I wrote a book called The Gift of Shyness. But on the other hand, the no's can get you to the yes. And you mentioned you had struggles. You went out for a promotion. They said, if I promote you, you're gonna fail or something. And then they didn't want to promote you to human resources. And you said you're working in a store, and a woman, I guess, spit at you, and you were going to physically fight her. And another guy followed you around. He said, I'm going to blow your head off. So what kind of store are you working with? It doesn't sound like a fun store. Is that what's going on there?
It wasn't.
Was that like a bad area or a bad kind of place?
In my tenure at the grocery stores, I was placed in several different ones, and each one had its different quirks and, but that store was really rough on me. I had become a little jaded. That's when I noticed like I needed to make a change for me, because that was after my dad had passed.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, if I'm not going to be moving up, if they keep telling me no, I'm going to have to make my own way.
Right.
Because I can say yes to myself.
Yes.
Even if they want to keep telling me no, I can say yes to me.
Yes, of course. So then you moved on from that. I think you said you became a manager or something, human resources eventually, and all that in the corporate world. Now, the other thing that really struck me is your book is kind of about a love story, two love stories, your mom and your dad, and then you and Troy, your fiancé husband. And you said that your mom and dad were very united together. And your dad said you put first God, then the marriage, and then the kids. So it's kind of a different approach. And you said they were very playful. They would chase each other around the house, mom and dad. They were kind of like very playful. And then he called her the Proverbs 31 wife, which is a classic from the Old Testament in Proverbs. It talks about the wife of noble character from King Lemuel. saying that she's a hard worker, a shrewd businesswoman. She's also extends her hands to the poor. She's charitable, helping people. She speaks with wisdom and clothed with dignity. Her husband and children call her blessed. This is one I kind of like. It says he laughs at the days to come, as if there's nothing to fear. So tell me a little bit about, does that apply to you, or do you want to be like that? What do you think of that Proverbs 31 wife or spouse?
You know, I feel like I'm trying, I strive to be, I'm not going to be as graceful as my mother is. I'm too much a little bit like my dad,
Okay.
but.
Like a tomboy or something? Were you a tomboyish kind of gal?
Yes, and I'm just more straight to the point, whereas my mom will be just, you know, kind of gracefully and quietly, you know, turn you down. I'm just like, no, it's not gonna happen, you know. Okay. But yeah, I do strive to be my version of a Proverbs 31 woman. There's always going to be, you know, I'm not going to be perfect or anything. I try, you know, we're day to day, week to week.
Right.
You know, we just relish at the time that we do have.
Right. But you're a good businesswoman. I know that for sure, actually, because you have a good business.
Yeah.
So you apparently you want to help people. So extending your hands to the poor, the suffering sounds like you. And the
Absolutely.
idea of do you laugh at the future holds in terms of not having fear? Because you did mention you had fear of having a child. How's that today? Are you overcoming the fear? Or do you still have the fear?
I would say that I'm overcoming fear of death itself. That used to be a huge fear of mine, especially after my dad passed away.
Yes.
So that's why I try to live my life in a way where I'm just in the moment.
In it to win it.
Because you don't know when your last breath is.
Yes. I like that. That's living in the moment. The power of now. It's a very powerful concept in the Eastern philosophy and many religions. So then you and Troy, okay, this is the other love story, right? The main one of your book. You started out as Facebook friends, I guess, which people do that these days, and you were only friends, it looks like. And then you became romantic. So what was the turning point? When did you, and it says you were skeptical. Did you have like a bad relationship in the past that made you a little bit more resistant?
Oh my goodness. How many do women have to go through?
Okay.
How many toads or frogs do we have to kiss until we get the prince?
I see.
But yeah, no, it's, yes, I had bad relationships, and I just wanted to focus on me at that point. But the more and more we hung out, he was very respectful of me and my boundaries, and he liked some of the same things I did and vice versa. And I don't know, just one day I kind of looked at him, and he happened to turn to me and said, well, hey, would you want to go on an actual date with me sometime?
Wow.
And I said, you know what? You caught me on a great day. The answer is yes.
That's pretty good. So you're playing a little hard to get, or maybe you weren't open in some ways at the moment, right, to do it.
I wasn't open, but let him tell the story, and he'll tell you that he was chasing me for 4 or 5 years, which he was.
Oh,
he was.
Wow. Okay. So what made you finally give in to the love? I mean, or, what was the something about him, something he said, or just time?
It was timing for me, and definitely how he treated me. It was not like how anybody else had ever treated me.
So he was patient and loving and all that.
Yes, he respected my boundaries and didn't press on them.
Yes.
Like at first when I told him, because I knew he liked me more than a friend.
Okay.
But when I told him I wasn't ready for that at this point, he didn't pressure me anymore.
Okay, so he pulled back. He didn't try to get romantic or physical. He just said, "Hey, I'm going to let you take your time." So you grew to love that. So, and then at some point you fall in love with him, right? You get into a relationship, everything's cool, and then you say, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to take a solo world tour by myself to many countries. I'm going to go to Fiji and India, Egypt, and everywhere else. And you're not coming." Now, first of all, you said he was okay with that, but what was your idea about that? That you just take off by yourself?
I just felt like I needed to heal for me because I had not grieved my dad up until it took me almost 5 years after his death to finally say, okay, enough is enough. I need to do something for me to get my head clear grieve his death. And when I explained all of that to Troy, we had been dating for, like a year and a half by that point. So we were, pretty secure, and he knew I wasn't going to like sow my royal oats anywhere or anything like that. So I literally was going so that I could gain some clarity for me. And he knew that if I wasn't going to be good mentally and physically, I wasn't going to be good for him.
Wow.
And when we had that talk, he understood and said, I'll be here when you get back.
So he wasn't jealous or possessive, which, some people may be that way, if you're taken off for months. But he was supportive, right? So he wanted you to feel good and have self-care. And apparently you had some great experiences. Now, you just say you did injure your foot or something, you got infected, you were in the hospital.
I did.
In another country.
Within the first 2 weeks.
Okay, not a good start. Okay. But then it sounds like you recovered and you made a lot of great friends. Sounds like you made a loving connection with people. And Love University, we talk about loving others without expectation. So it sounds like people helped you when you were injured too. And that time.
Oh my goodness, yes. The people that I encountered along the way, and even after I had healed, were so amazing. I still talk to two of the people that I grew close with when I was in Australia and in New Zealand. So I've actually gone a couple that I talked about that were from Sweden. I have gone to go see them in Sweden and visit with them. And next year I plan on going, taking my mom to meet them in Sweden next year. And one of the couples that lived in Australia at the time, now they're in France. So we're going to go see them in France too next year, since we'll be in Europe. And so I do keep the lines of communication open. I've gone to see people that I met along the way and love on them. They love on me still. So it's a mutual.
Yeah, it's a tremendous experience. Hopefully with the virus, hopefully winding down, people can travel more and, get back to the world. Now, the other thing that was very beautiful, is one of the very touching, is when he proposed to you on January 1st, 2017, it looks like, at Disney World. You said that this was your favorite place. Like, he knew this is like your dream place, right? And you guys are going to all this, walking around and all that. And then he apparently pulls out a ring. And then he says a beautiful phrase. I think this could be like something you could put on a postcard. Can we chase our dreams together forever? Which is very lovely. And then you said you were speechless. And you kind of, for 15 minutes, you walked around the park. And then you didn't do anything. And then at some point, I guess you heard a song or something like, what's the song called about what's it called?
It was the fireworks that started going off. Fireworks. And like the Jiminy Cricket song started playing.
Okay, Jiminy Cricket. What's the song? What's it called?
When You Wish Upon a Star.
Oh, When You Wish Upon a Star. Okay, so yeah. So and then you said yes. So, but why did you delay 15 minutes? What was going on?
I was just so shocked because I am such, which I've gotten better at this, but I'm such a control freak that I was like, how come I didn't know he was doing this?
Oh, okay. So you thought you should know about it.
You don't know.
Yes. Okay. so he surprised you. He really pulled a good one on you, right? He surprised you.
He did. He really surprised me good.
Wow.
And he knew I wasn't going to say no by Cinderella's Castle. He had it all planned out. He knew.
Oh, okay, cool. And the song came out at the same time that you loved the song and all that, and everything's going good, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And did he get on one knee, or he just pulled it out, the ring?
It's so funny because I saw him out of the corner of my eye trying to like fumble, and I'm like, what is he doing? Well, he was trying to kneel down, but there was people behind.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Behind.
You don't want to step on someone's toes.
Yeah, that's how packed it used to be before COVID.
Okay.
So he was like halfway kneeled, and I was like, I thought maybe he had dropped something.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But yeah, no, he was almost there.
That's incredible. So that's a wonderful thing now, but you went from the heights of joy to despair when apparently after your birthday, your 31st in March of 17, which a couple months later, he's diagnosed with this terminal kind of nose cancer, as you call it. And then everything changed, right? You said your whole life changed. So tell us,
again.
what was your feelings? I know you went through surgery and radiation and all that. So tell us about that.
Oh yes. I mean, he had the whole gamut done to him because of the stage it was in. It was rare, and
Stage
uh,
4. It was,
just the placement of it.
yes.
So they had to do chemotherapy and radiation to try to shrink it, which appeared to work for a little while.
Right.
But the tumor just would grow back. So finally, they decided to go ahead and just do surgery. The surgery was pretty major, which, doctors will warn you of the consequences that could happen. And, we're sitting there like, okay, thank you for letting us know. But like, is that really going to happen? And it did. So
they took
just,
out, they took out his eye, and part of his face was kind of messed up as well after the surgery.
Yeah. So it was on his left side. So they had to take his left eye, part of his left nostril,
Wow.
and a part of his skull,
Wow.
because the tumor had just like broken so much like bone.
Yes.
That's why they had to go in and remove so many things. His left eye was working, but they were afraid that if they didn't take the eye, the tumor would just keep swirling around it and spreading and causing even more damage. So they went ahead and took
here's
it.
a realistic question. After his looks were gone, did you still love him?
Yes, I loved him still. It was a shock. I'm not going to lie. So when I walked back to go see him when he was in recovery, because he was asking for me, I almost fainted.
Wow.
Now, thankfully, my mom was behind me because she kind of caught me a little bit. But I let his mom go talk to him first, because especially with family caregivers, if you're listening, we know we all have to be strong.
Yes.
We feel like we have to be strong. We have to wear our superhero cape, and we can't let our family members see us crying or weak.
Yes.
So that's what I had to step out into the hallway to gather myself before I went back in. It took him a couple months to realize, though, that he didn't just have something covering his eye, that literally his eye was no longer there, because about a month and a half after the surgery, he asked me, when do we go back to the doctor for them to take this patch off of my eye? Wow. And I was constantly reminding him that it's not a patch per se over your eye. It's your eye's gone. Yes. So it took him a couple months for it to be drilled in that, like, wow, they really did have to take it. Even though he knew, it was still, psychologically, he wasn't understanding.
It's kind of the loss of a limb. People go through horrible, losses physically. It takes adjustment process. But the thing is, we had one of our guests was Pedro Cabilla. He's a famous Puerto Rican poet and author. And I asked him about a relationship. He's very happily married with his wife. And he says his secret is to marry the most beautiful person in the world, but that happens to be in sight. And he says, you have rose-colored glasses. You see each other in the most beautiful way. And I'm sure with him, you do love his qualities, right, as well as who he is. And that enhances the beauty of the person. As opposed to some people are superficial. They just go by looks or, chemistry and, hey, I'm not interested. But you're different, I think.
I mean, that's so true. And I've been asked this, multiple times, like, you didn't think about leaving, blah, blah, blah. And, I did not. Wow. I was scared that I wasn't going to be strong enough. I remember, telling my mom, I don't know if I'm strong enough to get him through this. And, she just reassured me, like, yes, you are. You're a strong woman. Yes. You have your dad's, blood running through your veins. Yes. You know what you need to do. You've been doing it so far for Troy. Just keep pressing on, and you'll rebound from this in whatever way that looks like.
That's wonderful. That's powerful. Now, you said at some point, though, you kind of felt your spirit was broken because your dad, he died, and now you had Troy. And you're a caretaker, right? And caregivers, you give so much of yourself, and then you feel a little guilty about it. But then he says something like to you, I don't want to die, you said, we're going to fight. So by saying that, it kind of opened up your spirit, your fighting spirit, which I guess is like your dad, to, never give up, right? So that was a big step. The other thing that I find interesting in your book, you actually wrote a letter to cancer. You wrote it, like as a person, saying things like, "Dear Cancer, why did you turn my life upside down? Why did you take his dignity?" But then I read a little closer, and I was thinking some of those things you can actually consider almost as lessons, and somehow pain can become power, because you also asked Cancer, "Why did you make me realize who my real friends are?" I thought, wow, that's interesting. Why did I worry about what others would think so much about what I do? So feeling guilty. And why do you make me question myself and God? Almost like deep, reflective questions. So how did that kind of give you some ideas about that, the way you wrote that?
So I actually invested in a writing coach as I was on this process of writing my book. And she told me to always carry paper and pen with me. And if I ever felt a need to write, if I'm in the car, pull over and write. And I actually had turned into a grocery store that I actually happened to used to work at. And I had this overcoming sense of, Ashley, pick up your pen. And I did. And the topic it just came off the top of my head. And it was just this nasty note to cancer, because I had so long wanted to beat it up, but you can't physically beat cancer up. So that was my form of being able to scream and yell at cancer, and it just came to life off the page to me.
Wow. Well, it's like catharsis, in psychology, the sudden release of feelings that are built up. They kind of make you feel better. You cry, you maybe hit something, but you feel better. But I was thinking, though, that there is, in a sense, a lesson in some of these things you're saying. I mean, you're very angry at cancer. But the thing about who my real friends are, did you find people that weren't really your friends, that weren't around because of this?
Yes, and I do realize that some people just don't know what to say. It's just like if and when someone dies.
Yes.
Sometimes people just really don't know what to say. They say the wrong thing, or they don't say anything at all. And I ran into that a lot. There's some people that I kind of had to put to the back burner because they either just weren't in my life, or they weren't a comfort or peace.
Right.
Bearing peace in my life, and I didn't need any extra drama or something that would bring me down, because I was already burning out as a caregiver.
So somewhere that can be almost painful to lose so-called friends, but maybe a positive thing, right? To move away from people that are negative, that are not, feeding you positive energy.
Right.
And your loved
one. Friendships. I do realize friendships and relationships ebb and flow. I mean, there's even some family members that I've pulled back from because they weren't necessarily supportive, but that's life. And I've been told by a very wise man, my father, that some people you just have to love from afar.
Oh, interesting. Good point.
So you can still love them, but you might not be in their lives every day.
Yeah, some people are negative energy, and they're like people in a zoo. You can look at the animals, but you don't want to get too close to that animal. It might bite you, right?
Exactly.
Right. Now, one thing I like about your book, now you seem like you love music. Every title has a musical song, that's anywhere from R&B to modern hip hop and all that. Do you sing, by the way? Actually, do you have any musical talent? Yes?
No, I love to, but no one needs to hear me sing.
I was going to ask you to sing, but I guess if you don't. Even our Reggie, our producer, he sang a song one time. Right, Reggie? Mm-hmm. What did you sing for us that one time?
I think I sang several times, actually. One time I sang Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, and Danny Boy another time.
Oh, okay. Danny Boy. All right. So, he does it because he loves it. It's just joy coming out of his lips. So you said that you guys would put music on in the car on the way to the hospital, back and forth. Were you guys either singing or just listening to the music? What was going on as you did this?
Oh my goodness. Definitely singing, putting on full concerts if we could,
Eye of the Tiger, you sang other gospel music as well.
Yeah, gospel, rock, pop,
Tupac
R&B,
was his favorite.
rap.
Tupac, you think you said?
Tupac is his favorite rapper,
Yes.
so we would listen to a lot of Tupac.
Okay.
It helped release a lot of tension and
Yes.
anxiety.
Right.
Just going to the treatments, and then by the time he's done with his treatments, because it would be 8 to 10 hours a day,
Wow.
then it would be like, for me, I need music that keeps me
Yes.
upbeat so that I
Yes.
can drive us home safely.
Sounds like a full-time job. It sounds like 8 to 10 hours a day. That's pretty intense. It's like a real job.
Yeah.
And then the music would uplift your spirit. And we had actually one of our guests on the show is a young Filipino man who's a business successful author. And he says he does in the morning a car dance. So before he goes to work, he starts dancing in the car, and he visualizes all the sales he's going to make. And actually, it helps him throughout the day. So it's like he visualizes and actualizes the music in his head. Now, the other thing is, yeah, that's a cool thing. What would you dance to, let's say, if you had the music on a daily basis? What's your favorite kind of song? You look like you have like even like old style disco looked like, and R&B from the old days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I love Chic, Cool in the Gang,
The Freak, and all that stuff. And,
Sister Sledge.
Okay.
Oh, I love all of that.
All the old classics.
Because
Right?
I grew up.
Yes.
Yeah, I grew up listening to that with my parents.
Motown and all that stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Now, the other thing you mentioned is there's a good book, The 5 Love Languages, and they talk about how we need to give love in the way people want to receive it. Gary Chapman. And you said you guys had to learn how to give each other love in the way you wanted. For example, you said he is into touch and words of affirmation, and you're into gifts and acts of service. So in the beginning, was he trying to give you more affection than you wanted physically and appreciation, and you were not giving him what he wanted back?
Correct. It was frustrating.
So you want him to fix your car, like it when he does stuff for you or cooks you something? That's what you would.
So I love it when he cooks for me, and I see, it's just so sexy when he, just
puts on a chef's hat or something.
Vacuums.
Oh, okay.
Vacuums and washes the dishes.
Okay.
That's beautiful to me.
Wow.
That way, because I am the sole breadwinner,
Yes.
it helps me to focus on getting the clients or making the calls I need to versus having to wash a dish or vacuum the floor. Okay. So that's why I like the acts of service. And if he comes home with a Chipotle burrito every now and then, I consider that a gift.
Okay.
So
that's kind of cool. Okay. And then he likes hugs, kisses, and nice words. What affection do you call him? Do you call him baby or honey or something, or what are your pet words? Don't embarrass him.
I call him Bay.
B-A-Y.
And B-A-E.
Okay.
And that's basically it.
Okay. What does he call you? I'm sure he has words for you too that are nice.
The same. Babe. Ash.
Okay.
So not too many people call me that, but him.
Oh, okay. Well, here you go. So you get him the chance.
Yeah.
So it's very loving. Now, the other thing is about your book. This is, I think, a main point. You say, don't be a victim. Turn pain into purpose. So one thing you mentioned is the caregiver that you are and others are, you used to have the idea that you cannot show fear, so that you have to be very strong, and you can't really take care of yourself because you have to take care of others. But what have you learned since that time?
That's definitely a lie that we tell ourselves. We can definitely take care of ourselves. Yes. We can treat ourselves. Yes. And we deserve to. We put family caregivers put a lot of ourselves into who we're caring for. And 9 times out of 10, we're not getting paid for this, and our lives change in the blink of an eye. For instance, I just read a couple days ago, there was like 43.5 million of us family caregivers, and we're not paid. It's not like we're a nurse or home health care person that can clock in and clock out. Right. We're here 24/7 with our loved one. Okay.
Well, let me give you a book idea. What if you wrote a book for caregivers, how to love yourself and your loved ones? kind of a mental health program.
Yes, so that's definitely something I would be interested in doing. Yes. I have so many book ideas since I've written my first one.
Exactly, yeah. You got the hang of it. But I think the thing is, you're drawing from who you are. That's the power of authenticity, right? When you write a book or do a seminar or presentation. And the intelligent caregiver, that's a phrase I would use. Intelligent meaning you take care of others, but also yourself, because you realize you have to replenish yourself to be able to give more love to others. And that's a big issue. And the other thing that you talked about in the book, that's actually, I think, a very powerful idea, is to use your pain points for your purpose. And you said your pain point, obviously, you know, the tragedy of your fiancé, Troy, husband, and your dad, but also your passion connected to that, which I think you mentioned is travel and putting on events. So then, and you had, I think you had a coach, you said, that helped you with all the stuff, and you had this insight, sudden gestalt, that I can do this. I can create a company where I put on events for chronically and terminally ill people, and you call it Timeless Dream Events, where I think you put on weddings for people that may be dying actually in a short period of time, or birthday parties or celebrations. That's an amazing concept. Tell us about that and what's going on with your company. So I think we had you on about a year ago. What's been happening since then? Yes.
I had just launched like a month or so.
We were there at the inauguration, so that's cool.
Yes,
so tell us about yes. Tell us a little bit about that.
A year out, it's been wonderful, the love and support that I've received, and I was telling you earlier that I've even had clients book me not because that they are terminally or chronically ill, but because they have gone to my website, read my story on there, and they're like, whoa, like, I just want to work with you, which is totally fine. I'll help anyone and everyone. But, you know, it's been interesting to see where Timeless Dream Events has taken me. I did become ordained earlier this year.
Wow.
Because one of my friends who I was helping plan her wedding, she asked me to be her officiant. So I said, okay, you're pushing me a little bit out of my comfort zone. But it was a God thing because another friend, I had just gotten my license card in the mail, and another friend had texted me saying, my dad literally has a week or less to live. Can you figure out an officiant for me? Can you get me a cake? Can you know, all these different things? And I'm like, I can do it all. Because I hadn't told anyone that I was becoming an officiant, ordained minister. And so it just was a God thing. I was able to marry one of my really good friends in the hospice wing of her father's hospice wing. And the hospice people are so nice. And when they heard about my business and what, you know, I stand for, they were so amazed because they're like, well, they've never heard anything like this before. But
that's amazing.
Sadly, her father did pass maybe 3 days. It was about 3 or 4 days after we got her married.
But he saw the event. He felt the love in there before he went.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And it just reaffirmed what I'm doing.
Yes, definitely.
And
it sounds like you do so many things. You said you cater to the place. You do videography. You do travel agency too. You have trips as well.
Yes, I am a travel agent as well.
Wow.
So I can get, you know, my clients hooked up with whatever they need. I have, you know, people that are willing to help last minute if need be.
Okay, and you can marry them too, right? So this is your newest thing.
And I can marry them too.
Okay. But don't divorce them. No, we don't want a divorce, right? We don't want the marriage.
No. Oh, no.
Okay. All right. So the marriage, everything else is kind of cool. And you said that you do this in a short time frame. Unfortunately, people may die right during this time, but you do it quickly. You're also sensitive to obviously their pain and suffering, and your goal is to help the caretakers, right, in their journey of loss and also joy as well. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
So I see that as a powerful mission that you have, that you're creating, you know, like I said, from your pain. So that pain point has created a miracle in your heart, right? It's really helping a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And you say you're like
I love that.
Which one? The pain.
How you said it, the pain point created a miracle in my heart. I like
Okay, I'll write that down. Okay, yes, it does. And then you say you're like a phoenix that rises from the ashes, the bird that does that. So that's wonderful. So actually, again, as always, we love having you on the show, and we want to have you back. And by the way, I'm starting a sister podcast from Love University called Invincible You, which actually is more about personal empowerment, also in the business area. So maybe we can have you back on talking about business and how to achieve your goals in that way. You know, kind of the other side of things. Loving.
I would love to.
Loving your work, you know, your career. That would be another topic. So tell us a little bit about where people can get a hold of you, your website, and other things you have to offer.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse, TikTok, LinkedIn, all at Timeless Dream Events. My website is timelessdreamevents.com. You can also order a copy of my book from there, and I will sign it for you.
Perfect. I like that.
If you like Amazon, because you can get your stuff the very next day,
Yes.
my book is on Amazon
I
as
ordered,
well.
I ordered one copy on Amazon, so I got it immediately.
Yeah.
So this works.
Exactly. See, Lost, Travel, Found. And it is for a little bit of everyone, whether you're a caregiver, you're on a grief and healing journey, you love to travel, there's some adventure, there's a little bit of everything in there for anybody to read. And you can find me, like I said, almost everywhere on social media.
So actually, speaking of travel, do you ever get out to my area, Southern California? Have you been out here at all in the past?
I have, but not since COVID, and
Right.
I need to come out there.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come.
So-
Maybe we can do something
Yeah.
together, or you know, have something that can inspire people.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And where are you located at? Where's your city?
I'm in Ohio,
Okay.
Dayton,
Oh, okay.
Ohio
I definitely
area.
know that is. Perfect. Well, again, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. If anyone has any questions about today's show or more about Ashley's work, they can reach us at 310-226-8090, loveuniversity.love, and also write to us at loveuniversity@gmail.com. So actually, your story is wonderful, but also what you did with it, and that's the key. I think the fact that, as you like the phrase, your pain point is now the miracle of the heart, it kind of can apply to a lot of people, because people, sometimes when they suffer pain, they can be defeated and say no, but what if they take that into something positive, right? Into a joyful thing they can help others with. And you're doing that, and you're giving love without expectation. So thank you again, Ashley, for being on the show. And
Thank you.
we'll love to have you back on again. So until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and this is Ashley Jackson, turning pain into purpose. Until next time. And that was a beautiful interview with Ashley Jackson, the owner and founder of Timeless Dream Events. So basically, the key is she took her pain point, what caused her suffering, the illness, cancer of her fiancé, death of her father, and turned it into power and purpose, where she created the Timeless Dream Events, a beautiful company where put on events for people who are terminally ill or chronically ill, birthdays, anniversaries, and also celebration of life. And really the lesson from this is that when you give love without expectation from the suffering that you have or pain, you can transform it. You can turn it into something beautiful. We call it the miracle of the heart. So Love University students, go out this week and try to find a way to turn your pain inside into something positive, something that can help people, something that can bring joy. Many of our greatest inventions, greatest ingenuities come because people want to find a solution to something that brings them pain, whether it's relationships, finances, or health. So if you want to contact us about today's show or future shows or be a guest on the show, you can reach us at loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. Call us at 310-226-8090. Visit us at loveuniversity.love. You can like us on Facebook at Love University Podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Love_U Podcast. Also, we're starting a sister podcast that actually talks about invincibility. It's called Invincible You, how to live with passion, purpose, and power and achieve your dreams in many ways. And for that podcast, which is also on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud, just like at Love University, you can follow us at InvincibleU_ on Twitter, or follow us on Instagram at InvincibleUOfficial. Until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University. Make sure you go out and love others, yourself, and a higher nature. Until next time.